All right, moving on, John. Darren Reyes says, what's more likely? Dave Filoni's first movie after becoming head of Lucasfilm is from the Filoni-verse or is Knights of the Old Republic?
You know what? That is ultimately the billion-dollar question. Now, for those of you who might have missed yesterday's show, a report came out of Puck, Matt Bellani, who you guys all saw in the Seth Rogen series, The Studio, reported that within the next week or two, they will be making the formal announcement that Kathleen Kennedy, 5 years long overdue, is going to be stepping down, and that Lynwen and Dave Filoni are going to be taking over as the co-presidents of Lucasfilm. And to which I've always had some apprehension, because I like Dave Filoni very much. I like him very, very much. But I've never thought he'd be a good choice to take over Lucasfilm because he has zero idea about how to run a giant corporation. Like, at all. Nothing. No experience at it, whatever. And he's a cartoon guy.
Right.
Right. And so there's been that. But on the other hand, since the conversations first started coming up about maybe him being the next guy, he's had 5 more years of experience. He's had a few years of experience now as an executive there, as a chief creative officer over there at Lucasfilm. But what I said, it will all come down to this. Does he move Star Wars forward or does he continue to go backwards? Because my biggest criticism of Dave Filoni, as a massive Star Wars nerd, and he's got Star Wars in his blood and his DNA, but he is so, self-absorbed with Ahsoka and that whole kind of era that I'm really worried about that. I think it is more likely that the very first movie Dave Filoni is going to announce is an Ahsoka movie. I really do. I don't mean to sound pessimistic, and that will realize all my worst fears, because who cares? And the Ahsoka series was, I'm sorry guys, Ahsoka wasn't very good. It was 1,000 times better than The Acolyte, but it still wasn't very good. Now, if he comes out, because this is where I'm holding my hope. If Dave Filoni comes out and says, listen, Rebels was great. Clone Wars was great. I love Ahsoka. The Mando-verse that we've done under the leadership of Jon Favreau, great. But it's time to break new ground. It's time to move forward in Star Wars. If Dave Filoni comes out and says that, even if it's talking about going to Old Republic or whatever, I think that would tap a fountain of enthusiasm, and I'd be really, really excited about it. And I'm still going to keep my fingers crossed that that's exactly what Dave Filoni is going to do, in which case I will be very excited about this new era with him and Lynwen running it. But if I had to bet $5, my guess right now is the very first movie he does is an Ahsoka movie, because that's all he cares about. And so hopefully I'm wrong, but I think it's going to be something very Filoni-verse. Rob, what's the first movie that Dave Filoni and his co-president are going to do at Lucasfilm?
I think you're absolutely right. I think it's absolutely going to be
I was
Filoni-verse
hoping you would
movie.
change my mind.
No, I can't. Because, I don't think he's a fan of Andor. We've heard that he wasn't. There were reports out that he wasn't a big fan of Andor or what was going on there. I think Dave Filoni believes that Star Wars is a very specific kind of thing. And I think that, he has a great fealty to George Lucas and George Lucas's conception of the Force and all of that, which is fine because some of the programming he's been responsible for is great. Like I thought that the Clone Wars series and Rebels were pretty terrific. Clone Wars started out a little back and forth because they had to do their goofy episodes, but once they got into that groove, I thought Clone Wars was great. I love the final season, that extra season. I loved Rebels. But I think that the live action Star Wars has been very problematic on various levels. Mandalorian seasons 1 and 2 were great. That was but they weren't Andor levels of greatness.
No, they were nowhere near
They weren't
Andor
Empire
level,
Strikes
no.
Back levels of greatness, And I think that the live action Star Wars shows have showed a kind of a unique, in a way, lack of vision for what Star Wars can do and how it should be made. So I definitely, and look, the Mandalorian and Grogu is going to be the big test to me. I'm really curious to see where they go, because John Favreau directs, but still, he's been stuck in TV land now, that Star Wars TV land, for a while. And he was responsible for a lot of season 3 of Mandalorian as well. So I look at this going, we'll see. Because I don't think Dave Filoni wants to do anything other than the Filoni-verse. I don't see him going, yeah, we should do Knights of the Old Republic, because I don't think he sees that jibes with George Lucas's vision of what Star Wars is supposed to be.
But here's something too, though. This to maybe try to be more optimistic. Remember, he didn't get this job in a vacuum.
No, I know.
Disney had to give him the job. And he had to convince Disney that he was the right guy to do it. And I don't know that he would have been able to convince Bob Iger, Big Papa Iger, and the board of Disney. I don't know that Dave Filoni would have been able to convince Bob Iger and his leadership team to hire him in this role with a sales pitch of, it's going to be all Ahsoka and Filoni-verse all the time.
True.
I think he would have had to have gone to Bob Iger with a new, but hopefully with a vision for the future that isn't just about, because let's face it. I know a lot of people like Clone Wars. Nobody's seen Clone Wars. In the broader scale of the movie going audience.
Yeah.
Nobody has seen Clone
Rebels.
Wars. And I'm not crap talking. I love Rebels, but nobody in the general public has watched it. So he would have had to have given Big Papa Iger a pitch for what his vision of Star Wars could be that would have Iger and the rest of the board going, because remember, we just did the whole Kathleen Kennedy thing and we've really damaged the property. So I'm gonna choose Rob. I'm gonna choose to be optimistic. I still think he's gonna try to come out of the gate with an Ahsoka movie, though. I really do, and ruin everything. But here's hoping. Fingers crossed.
The Mandalorian Grogu could do that too.
It could. I just don't think enough. But here's the good thing about it. I don't think enough people are going to go see Mandalorian and Grogu for it to move the needle one way or the other.
Yeah, that's true too.
But
They'll
we'll
still
see.
make something after that.
Hey guys, thanks so much for watching this video. Make sure you like the video, leave a comment, and subscribe to our channel. And don't forget, we have a daily podcast called the John Campea Show podcast, available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite podcasting app of choice. Go and subscribe to it today so it'll be there when you need it.